Welcome to the Masterclass Scholars. If you are gearing up for your Cambridge AS and A-level accounting exams, you already know that Syllabus Module 9706, specifically the Sources of Finance for Business Entities, is an absolute heavy hitter. It is a cornerstone topic that makes or breaks your final grade. But here's the fascinating thing, and I see this as an examiner all the time. Year after year, incredibly smart, dedicated students walk into that exam hall, crunch the numbers perfectly, calculate the gearing ratios without breaking a sweat, and still walk out with a completely mediocre grade. Today, we are going entirely behind the scenes. Think of me as your master coach. We are unpacking an insider's playbook based directly on Cambridge Principal Examiner reports and the official syllabus framework. We are going to fundamentally transform how you look at these complex, high-tariff questions, breaking down the exact, step-by-step strategies that unlock those elusive top-tier marking bands. So grab your notebooks, get focused, and let's dive into this.
So I want to pose a really high-stakes question directly to you right now. Look at the screen. Why do students fail to secure top marks in Sources of Finance? You might automatically think, well, it's because the math is too hard, or the formulas for cost of capital are just too complex to remember under the intense pressure of a ticking clock. But that is actually a massive myth. When we dig into the historical data and the academic benchmarks, losing those easy, low-hanging marks isn't usually about bad math at all. It is almost entirely about flawed methodology. Let's look at a classic high-tariff 12-mark question. Evaluate whether a public limited company should use a rights issue or a long-term bank loan to finance a major expansion. An average student treats that like a simple arithmetic test. But this is an analytical exam. You have to master the anatomy of command words. We need to deeply contrast a word like analyze versus evaluate. Analyze means digging into the mechanics, how the rights issue works, but evaluate? That demands a judgment call. It demands you weigh the options and make a definitive choice. And the difference between explain and to what extent? Explain is just giving reasons. To what extent forces you to look at the hidden constraints, the counterarguments, the absolute limits of a financial strategy.
What's really interesting here is that this isn't just my personal opinion. I'm taking my examiner's lens right now and showing you exactly what the principal examiner reports say. These are the people actually grading your papers, folks. With my digital highlighter, I want to draw your attention to these top 3 massive traps. Trap number 1, answers are way too vague. The examiners are literally begging for specific details about share premium or debenture interest, but students give them these generic, rehearsed textbook statements. Trap number 2, poor formatting and presentation. Students completely abandon professional structure when they start to panic. And trap number 3, which is the absolute deadliest, ignoring the given context. If a prop gives you a specific business scenario, let's say a highly geared manufacturing firm looking to expand, and you just write a generic list of finance sources without isolating the hidden constraints of that specific firm, you get 0 application marks, 0. It's that simple, and it's that brutal. We are here to make sure you never fall into these traps again.
To guarantee that, we are using a highly rigorous, time-block structural blueprint today. We are covering the top examiner warnings, the core accounting principles, our step-by-step technical methodology, the secrets to mastering critical evaluation, and finally, your ultimate exam strategy.
Let's move straight into Section 1, Top Examiner Warnings, focusing specifically on the cognitive domains. To beat the exam, you have to understand the architecture of the test. Cambridge examiners target 3 distinct cognitive domains, which brings us to our magic number, 3. Assessment Objective 1 is knowledge, Assessment Objective 2 is analysis, and Assessment Objective 3 is evaluation. Now imagine you're in my digital study suite right now. On my left, I've got Alex. Alex is one of my top scholars, highly technical, excels at rattling off formulas and facts, but really struggles with open-ended evaluation. On my right, I've got Sam. Sam is a highly creative thinker, fantastic at building arguments, but struggles with structural precision and timing. So we're looking at that 12-mark question about the rights issue versus the bank loan. Alex immediately says, okay, let's just list out all the factual advantages of a rights issue. No interest payments, capital is permanent, boom, done. That is pure AO1, just knowledge. Sam jumps in and says, no, Alex, we have to talk about how the market is going to react to the dilution of control, the conceptual stuff. That's getting into AO2 and AO3. The truth is, successful candidates demonstrate competence across all 3 of these domains. If you only show knowledge like Alex initially wanted to, you literally cap your grade at a C or a D. You must integrate Sam's conceptual analysis to unlock the A star.
Which leads us perfectly into Section 2, the core accounting principles, and specifically, the method.
Top-performing candidates exhibit what we call connected conceptual understanding. You have to transfer your knowledge to unfamiliar contexts. So let's go back to our peer conversation in the study suite. Alex and Sam are debating the layout of their essay response. Alex is pushing for a purely factual approach, arguing, if we just calculate the new gearing ratio correctly, we get the marks, right? I had to stop them right there and introduce the method mark strategy. I told them, listen to me, in Cambridge accounting, marks are awarded for the logical process of systematic analysis and structured reasoning. I want you to really absorb that, not just the final numerical answer. I told Alex, you could literally calculate the final cost of capital incorrectly because of a silly calculator slip, but if your logical process, your step-by-step reasoning, is laid out clearly on the page, the examiner will still award you the majority of the method marks. Sam chimed in, so it's more about building the bridge than just standing on the other side? Exactly. The examiner needs to see your brain working on the page.
And this brings up a huge debate Alex and Sam were having about breadth versus depth. Average students go for superficial breadth. Faced with a question about financing and expansion, they just word vomit every single source of finance they've ever memorized. Bank loans, overdrafts, retained earnings, venture capital, leasing, just a massive, shallow list. Alex actually started doing this, saying, what if we throw in venture capital just to show we know it? But Sam correctly intervened. Wait, the prompt specifically limits us to comparing a rights issue and a bank loan. If we talk about venture capital, we are wasting time. Sam hit the nail on the head. The examiners prioritize analytical depth. They want you to take those two highly relevant sources and analyze them deeply. How does the bank loan impact liquidity next year? How does the rights issue affect current shareholder dividends? Depth absolutely always wins over breadth.
Now, let's get into the mechanics in Section 3, the technical methodology, step by step.
Okay, before we solve the hardest part of this entire framework, I need to pause our session for a quick second. If you are serious about unlocking these top-tier marking bands and you want to consistently conquer these exams, you need to subscribe to the channel right now. Ace the exams, IGCSE O and A levels. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button you see popping up on screen and click the notification bell so you never ever miss a weekly Cambridge breakthrough strategy. All right, back to the study suite. We need a procedural framework so we don't panic under the clock. Here is the 6-step workflow. 1. Deconstruct the question. 2. Extract relevant data. 3. Select your framework. 4. Execute with notation. 5. Verify results. 6. Present correctly. So Alex and Sam are actively drafting a model response paragraph by paragraph on screen using this workflow. They deconstruct, they extract the gearing ratio data, they execute, but suddenly they hit a massive roadblock at minute 10. Sam starts panicking. We have 5 minutes left, and these paragraphs feel totally disconnected. How do we link the quantitative data to the qualitative evaluation? I used my picture-in-picture to step in and pause their session. I told them, you're stuck because you're treating the numbers and the words as two different languages. The cognitive strategy here is to use the numbers as the evidence for your words. We rewrote the flawed section out loud together. Instead of saying, a bank loan is bad because it's risky, we wrote, the business should reject the bank loan because extracting the data shows gearing would rise to 65%, breaching industry safety norms and severely threatening short-term liquidity. Boom! That is a flawless, full-mark transition.
That rewrite leads us right into presentation conventions. When you are writing these extended answers, you cannot just drop numbers into a paragraph randomly. As you can see on this table, there are strict professional conventions. Proper headings for clear identification of your data. Correct, precise accounting terminology. You don't say money owed, you say non-current liabilities. Appropriate professional formats, and clear annotations explaining your steps. When Sam started applying clear annotations to the calculations, it instantly solved their linking problem because the math was suddenly speaking the same language as the essay. If you skip these conventions, you are throwing away easy marks.
Let's push into the most advanced territory. Section 4, Mastering Critical Evaluation and Higher Order Thinking.
We are now entering Act 4 of our masterclass, the interactive Pause and Practice Visual Workshop. I want you to look closely at the screen. I am putting up Visual Question 1, a complex text excerpt detailing a company's dropping profit margins alongside a proposed share issue. I'm starting a 60-second visual countdown timer on the screen right now. I want you to read it and decide, are you going to use standard analysis or higher order evaluation? Time's up. Here's the breakdown. If you just identified the facts, like the text says profit is down and issuing shares raises cash, you just did standard analysis. You get a few marks. But higher order evaluation, that requires identifying similarities and differences and using comparative connectives. A top-tier student looks at that source data and writes, while issuing shares provides immediate non-refundable liquidity, it contrasts sharply with a bank loan because in a period of declining profit margins, diluting existing shareholder dividends could trigger a mass sell-off of equity. Do you see the difference? You are evaluating the alternative and drawing a heavy conclusion based on the specific constraints of the data.
Let's do Visual Question 2, Spot the Flaw.
I am displaying a poorly written student answer on the board right now. It reads, the company should get a bank loan because interest rates are currently low. This is better than shares. I want you to find the 3 errors in evaluative thinking here. Got them? Okay, let me systematically highlight and annotate this screen for you. Error 1, they didn't question assumptions. Are interest rates guaranteed to stay low? Error 2, they completely ignored different perspectives. How does this debt affect the control of the original founders? Error 3, the biggest examiner trap of all, they made a recommendation without justifying it with evidence. Top-scoring candidates consistently question the assumptions in the prompt. They consider the perspectives of both debt holders and equity investors. They evaluate alternatives side by side, justify their decisions with hard numerical evidence, and make a rock-solid justified recommendation. If your response doesn't end with a powerful "therefore the entity must proceed with option A because," you haven't evaluated at all.
Which brings us to our final act. Section 5, Final Exam Strategy, and the Golden Rule.
Look at this direct quote from the Principal Examiner Alert. Candidates consistently confuse key terminology. Always define terms before using them in extended responses. This is your ultimate defensive shield. Never ever assume the examiner knows what you mean. If your whole argument rests on the concept of gearing, define it in your very first sentence. After our Study Suite session, Alex and Sam shared their personal breakthroughs. Alex realized, wow, if I just define my terms up front, I instantly lock in my A01 knowledge marks, taking the pressure off my math. And Sam said, by sticking to a structural framework, my arguments are actually grounded in reality instead of just floating in space. So I want to synthesize this entire masterclass into 3 core memorable pillars for you. Number 1, the 3-step question scan. Always isolate the command word, the content required, and the hidden constraints. Number 2, the paragraph balance formula. Every paragraph must have 1 part data, 1 part concept, 1 part judgment. And number 3, the last 5 minutes review checklist. Have you defined your terms? Have you explicitly answered the to what extent part of the prompt?
So here is my final provocative challenge to you. Will you actively deploy this deconstruct, solve, evaluate method on your very next practice paper? Knowing this theory is useless unless you execute it. Listen, crushing Cambridge exams requires consistent, relentless strategy. You can't just wing it. If you want to keep leveling up with us, you need to hit that subscribe button for Ace the Exams, IGCSE and AA levels right now. Turn on that notification bell so you get every single future exam hack we drop. And drop a comment down below right now with your specific target grade. Commit to it publicly. Master these insider strategies, trust the methodology, and you are going to absolutely dominate your accounting papers. Thanks for joining the masterclass, and I will see you in the next one.